trying to see how I get these guys moving the slides. But my project, Harriet has already talked about it. Transform Educational Center. Transform Educational Center is a school in Kasangati Town Council. And its story before we started it in 2009. And we had been struggling with it. What do we do? How do we do this thing properly? Until I joined the Institute for National Transformation. Now, when I attended the Institute for National Transformation Oxford leadership course, like Harry shared earlier, it equipped me with skills to making transformation. And so we shifted our focus to just being a school owned by Christians to a school that is based on biblical principles. And that has helped us a lot. Later on, I just finished my PhD in Christian education last year. I got to pick more principles on Christian education, and now we can proudly say that it is not even just a school based on Christian principles, but that it is a Christian school. Okay. And I'll hopefully share one or two or three principles that I have picked along the way. Okay, and next. Okay, I took the slide is full to make it easy. That is the outline of what I'm going to share with us. I'll give us a general introduction, then I'm going to make a case for transformational educational pathways, which pathways we are hopefully going to chart together. I'll give an overview of education, which you all know anyway, so I'll not give a lot of that. I'll talk a little bit about the impact of education, of biblically based education, a little about education in Africa, a little about Uganda's case, Vision 2040. I'll present you an interesting model that I developed as part of my studies, which I call the IMTRI framework of Christian education. Next, then I'll challenge us about what we can do. Okay, praise the Lord. Let's get to the next slide. Okay, I want us to take a minute and answer that question. What kind of world are we living in? And let me see, I would like us to find the world for participating. We had our groups, right? Do we still have our groups? Are they in the order in which we are seated? If there's a way we can just turn and make and have clusters the way we are seated so that you don't have to move. And just answer that question. What kind of world do we live in? Is there a way we can do that? Maybe five people from a group, quickly form another group, quickly form another group. Because I'll be asking us to discuss some of those questions in our small groups.
We said we are living in a very hostile world.
Hostile?
World.
Hostile?
Because there are so many words that
And just if you were not
hostile world. Then we're in moral and spiritual crisis.
okay, crisis,
Then a corrupted world.
corrupted world. Thank you. Another group, No, question one just. Another group.
The kind of world we're living in is where love is threatened.
Okay, where love is threatened.
Yes, desire and decline of morals is on high gear.
The secretary for the first group can come and write down there as she speaks.
We are also living in one global village.
Global.
With the negative and positive impacts on communities.
Yes.
We are living in a world where technology is growing rapidly.
Yeah, rapid technology.
Then we're also living in a world where there is a lot of rebellion, stress and depression. We are living in a world where there is increase and a competition in everything, including knowledge.
Okay, competition. Increased competition. Thank you.
There is this one.
You can pass on the microphone to the next group. Very fast.
I'm just going to make some mention.
Yes.
We are living in a materialistic world.
Materialistic.
People will know you when you have
Next
something.
is just state.
And we are living in a competitive world.
Okay, competitive.
And we are living in evil world.
Evil. Competitive, evil. Thank you. You can pass on the microphone.
We are living in fast changing world.
Fast
changing.
Okay, fast changing world.
We are living in a confused world.
Confused world.
We are living in crazy and wicked world.
Crazy.
We are living in technologically advancing world.
Advancing technologically.
We are
Okay.
living in a highly populated world.
Okay. Highly populated. And growing.
What kind of world are we living in? One, we are living in a certain world, we are certain,
Okay.
then we are living in a complex world,
In a
complex
okay. Complex.
Then we are living in a world of burdens,
Okay. Violence.
we are living in a monetary-based world. Monetary-based world.
Monetary. Okay. Monetary based.
What kind of education?
No, that just that.
We're living in chaotic world. So chaotic that we live in a chaotic world which is full of self-centeredness. Thank you.
Thank you.
Our group is saying we are living in a world of corruption. We are living in a world of war. We are living in a confused world. We are living in the world of wickedness. And we are living in the world of fear, the world of struggle and hardship, and the world of monetary or cultural
As a group, we're saying that the world we're living in is a world where cultural values are not appreciated, they have really been lost. Yes, and also we're living in a world where we have two babies' parents.
Who?
Yeah. Babies' parents. 13 years old, married.
In our discussion, we have come up with these points. The world we are living now is a world of integrity. Yes, without integrity. Yes. We are living in Yes.
I was getting happy.
The world without integrity.
Yeah.
We are living in confused world. We are living in a world which needs a lot of technology. That is ICT. We are living in a corrupt world, evil world, where there's a lot of war, crazy, a world where there's no sense of direction, a world which is dragging people towards evil things, a world where there's a lot of dependency. So these are the points that we have in our group.
Thank you. For the next question, I want each group to just pick out, if you have many answers, pick out the one you think gets it. Okay? And we're going to start from where we ended and then just come. What education do we need? What education do we need? Just choose one answer out of your very many answers.
I think education which needs to address the moral issues.
Okay, so we need moral education. Okay, thank you.
What kind of education does it need? It needs skill-based education.
Skill-based. This one we need to write. Could I have a volunteer here? If you don't mind. The first one says moral skills. Someone with a better handwriting than me. Just one word. You don't have to say, not just say.
Was someone said we need a Christian religious education plus practical education.
Okay, CRE. What's up?
We need morally transformational education.
Morally?
Transformational education.
Okay, moral transformation. Thank you.
Yes, once again we are saying we need a holistic education that involves.
Thank you.
Yes.
Make sure the what you say explains your answer.
We really need affordable.
Affordable. Thank you. Fear of God. Thank you. Fear of God.
We said we need competence-based education that trains
Okay, competence-based. Thank you. And there's still one person.
We need skilled and problem
Skills. Thank you.
problem solving.
Those are two.
Yeah.
So which of the two? We've taken. So you're withdrawing from skills. They are withdrawn from skills and say problem solving. Okay, thank you. And what education are we offering? What education are we offering? This one I can have just a few. Please, you can have him.
We are having kind of education that does not address the needs of society.
Okay, this does not address these needs that you have pointed out, okay? You can have her as well. Okay,
We have
academic oriented. Yes.
We said theoretical.
Okay, theoretical. One more. Because I know that your answers on this point are almost the same.
Instead, we're offering education that helps to nurture self-centeredness.
Self-centeredness. And it gets to your best song and gets stuck. And you pull it out, as you try to pull it out, it tears. Then you have to get sellotape or glue
And then when it reaches that part, you have to remember to stop very fast and then.
That subject almost made me fail to graduate. My supervisor for my dissertation, undergraduate, was going to fly out of the country in an hour's time. I put in the thing to print. She told me, disk not formatted. I had to jump onto a border from Makerere. Some of the chapters were in the Makerere, those geosics. Part of it was in Sagat, part of it was in Gayaza. So I had to dash place, put it, get very fast, chapter 1 and 2, then go back and open and then it won't tell me this is not formatted.
I remember I almost messed up. In her mind, I messed up at God's wedding. She brought her music all on that.
And guess what happened? It was cracked. So I couldn't. We remember that. That one should be more recent. Probably a few of us still use it. If your friend accidentally opened the camera, you lose all your. Okay. Do you remember that? I also have a story that I remember. You would have to call post office, then ask them, please link us to extension 22. Then you wait. If you are unfortunate, you get cut off because you put in a coin the other side. You get cut off before they have connected you. Okay, is that? I hope some of us are not still using those. Okay, there was a time when the best we could do was the flip chart. And there is that. And I want you to look at this picture. What did you see? What comes to mind when you see that picture? If I could again have one or two people speak into it. Anyone want to speak into it? Is that, do they call it a collage? Not collage, that. Anyone want to comment? You okay? Yes, please.
Some people in the future are still backward.
Others are still in past tense. Because of the future is past tense. Okay? Any other? Just one of yes, there's a hand this side.
Thank you. When you look at the pictures, their learning environments are not the same, so you don't expect the same outcome.
Yes, yeah, that is true. Do they sit? Okay, one more person.
If you take the first picture, it's concerned with peace.
Okay, so this is top is UPE, and then this is Papa parents, and then this one. Yes. So, do they? Assuming that this is also in Uganda, assuming this is a card, do they sit the same exam at the end of the year?
Yes.
At the end of it, they do. No, I said assuming it's a card. They all sit the same unit, not so. And that is can we have the same result? We definitely cannot. Yet they sit the same exam. And unfortunately, today, if school number 1, do they sit ICT in senior 6 as an exam?
Where did you first
in S6? Is it an option in S6? I don't think so.
ICT, you either take maths or ICT.
So can you teach, are you allowed to take history, geography, and ICT? Or that will be compulsory? If the education is, if I did history, geography, and Uganda, would they be allowed to choose? Yes? Okay, and if I am doing mathematics as well, so that would be compulsory, whether I am in this school or not. Okay. So that is the environment that we are operating in, and I want to ask to, I hope this thing works okay. I say that I will not focus a lot on those technical, but basically it has been said education is communication of life from the living to the living. And in this, we communicate our values, our beliefs, okay? And generally speaking, the first knockout point for education ought to be the general certificate for O level. Okay? So by international standards, an O level graduate, in fact, after ESPO we should be calling a graduate, not a dropout. So I want you to reflect. An O level graduate from the nearest school to you, are they ready for life? Can they thrive? What about a 6th graduate? Can they thrive? What about a university graduate? You finish graduating and come out, can they thrive? A few people can. The average university graduate, are they able to thrive? But remember that an ESPO graduate is supposed to be able to thrive. Okay, it has been shown that the most significant and sustainable strategy for alleviating poverty in a nation is education. So that means that any nation will alleviate poverty to the extent that it can master a solid educational system. If we continue today the way we are moving, shall we be able to eradicate poverty? That is food for thought. If we continue teaching in the environment that we are teaching, in the way that we are teaching, are we able to deal with poverty? Or is it a dream? Okay. In life, everything comes in a mold. Okay?
when you want to bake cake, you don't just pour a shapeless dough into the oven. You get a mold and you bake the cake. In a similar manner, our education also comes in molds. You have to, it will come in a particular shape. And for purposes of today, I've called these molds worldviews. Okay? And I'll contrast two basic worldviews that are especially in serious competition today. The first one is the humanist worldview, where everything is about man, or the purpose of education. And by the way, the humanist worldview is so deceptive that it is easy to think that it is biblical. Why? What does it focus on? Bringing out the best in a person, excellence, and those biblical principles. But in math logic we used to call it the trick. What is the trick? When you see an easy question, you read it 5 times before answering. The trick is that the focus is on man, on the human being. That's why it will promote human rights, and which are good, and tell you, including the right for me to decide whether I am a man or a woman. Okay? And it has been said that education without God creates clever devils. The contrasting worldview is the biblical worldview, which focuses on God. Everything you do is pointing to God. And that's why I get to one of the points that was raised. One of the proposals that was raised was that we should focus on Christian religious education. And I want to ask the question, how many of us have studied CRE in school? And the CRE you studied, did it lead you to know God better? No. In fact, for some it drew them further away from God. The CRE we studied, and actually the CRE we studied is not based on a biblical worldview. And that's why it does not have the power to transform. Amen. So we need to go back and ask ourselves, wait a minute, what are we doing? How are we doing? What and how are we doing? Ideally, everyone who studies CRE should just get born again after first term of S1. Instead, it makes those who are born again begin to doubt whether God exists. Recently, a friend of mine posted, she's doing education and she's doing CRE at the university as one of her subjects. And their professor had just told them that the concept of sexual purity is, how to phrase it, is no longer conceptually correct in our era. Is relevant, is no longer relevant to our times. Okay? And you could clearly see he is teaching from a worldview that is not biblically based. the worldly worldview or the humanist worldview has God in it, but God serves man. And so the concept of what is godliness keeps changing with society. We see that biblically based education has changed, has had transformation in a number of countries. Okay? In Germany we had Martin Luther. We all know about him for the Reformation. But beyond the Reformation, he established schools, okay, that were based on the Bible. And as a result of those schools, he was able to transform Germany, okay, to a country of economic prosperity. Now, that specific era of prosperity ushered in by those schools was enjoyed for 200 years uninterrupted. Okay? And as he was still doing what he was doing, John Calvin, another man the theologians will be alive to, visited Luther. And when he visited Luther, he copied from him what he was doing. And John Calvin went to Geneva and did the same thing. He established schools, and specifically what came to be known as the University of Geneva. And these schools were equally based on a biblical curriculum. What was the result of that? Economic prosperity. The famous Swiss culture we talk about, okay, the watches came out of that revolution brought by John Calvin, emphasizing biblically principled education. A man that copied what Calvin was doing was called John Knox, okay, who based his work in Scotland. The Scots were known as the least educated in Europe at the time, but using biblical principles, he transformed them to be the best educated. And as a result of that, we see the entire Great Britain being transformed, and out of that, we see the Enlightenment and the Reformation that led to missionary work. And that's the missionary work that brought, among others, Christianity to Uganda. Okay? So we see that education that is based on biblical principles has the capacity to bring transformation. Amen. So if we are Christians, if we are believers, what percentage are we of Christians in the country?
80%.
Actually 84.4% by the last census. What is our position in corruption? Or what is our corruption in score? I'll tell you, our corruption score is 75%.
Only more than that.
Of course, it could be more, but that is based on perceptions. But you know what that means? 75% corrupt. It means that if Uganda is 75% corrupt, it means that in every $100, 75 are stolen. It means that in every work that we do, when I was in school, 75 used to be a D1. I know it's now I think at 80. But still, that means we have a distinction in corruption as a country. And a super D1 in Christianity as a country. So where is the gap? What is lacking? What are we doing right or wrong?
What's lacking in the religious in politics, yeah, we'll expect the change. Yeah.
If I didn't say that again.
If leaders, pastors, genuine pastors, reverends and leaders begin with the presidency down, we will expect change.
If we put them there, haven't we had them there? Haven't we had religious leaders in some of these positions?
Minority.
Yes, minority, but the few that we've had there, have they had that impact?
Not educated.
Okay.
Question of the education.
The Bible gives a pattern of education, okay, which I want to give us briefly. That's a small book that I've done out of my studies. But we see in the Bible education starting right from the Garden of Eden. The moment God creates, He teaches man. Okay? And now, the first thing, even before teaching him, He empowers man to be able to learn. Okay? How does He empower man? He empowers man by creating him in His image and in His likeness. Okay? He creates man in His image and in His likeness. What is He doing among others? He is empowering him because image speaks to character. Okay? And likeness speaks to ability. It gives man, by man I mean human beings. Okay? He gives people the power to display His character and the power to display His creative abilities. Okay? And then after that, He clarifies to him the purpose. He clarifies to the human beings what they were supposed to do. And what He tells them is supposed to till the land and to keep it. To till the land and to keep it. What does that mean? Tilling, when you till, you're producing more. Okay? When you're keeping, you're protecting what you have. Okay? So the education that God gives Adam and Eve is education so that He is able to reproduce, to grow, while maintaining. Okay? So if our education teaches us to grow, to do things, but does not teach and empower us to maintain. Okay? If it teaches us to create, make cars and drive cars that pollute the environment, then it's a skewed education. It's supposed to have both of those components. Okay? And how were they to do this? Through being fruitful, multiplying, filling the earth, subduing it, having dominion. Okay? Now, what went wrong? What happens? We all know of the story of the fall of man in the Garden of Okay, I think I am. Okay, so as part of the education, God provides for success. Okay, He provides human beings for success. He brings rain, the ability to make rain. Okay, so as we are educating our students, are we providing clear guidance what to eat, what not to eat? Okay, and there's something interesting also that happens there that we need to take note of, which is why we are having challenges today Okay? He educates man as he's walking with him in the Garden of Eden. And our forefathers and foremothers did this very well. Teach the child how to hunt when you're hunting with them. Okay? Don't collect them and take them to a hunting school. This is the difference between the two. Teach them how to cook, not by sending them to a cooking school, but by cooking with them. What are we doing today? We cram ourselves into a class, learn the principles of physics, and then we are said to go and practice what you learned. How am I, if I've just sat down and you told me about it, how am I going to practice what I have learned? Walk with me and show me how to drive that car. But you just imagine sitting in a class and you go through a lesson. Now when you're going to drive, you start by igniting, then you change gears, and then you tell me, go and drive. Okay? And God meant that education should be passed on from parent to child. Okay? God gives the responsibility for education to the parent, not the government, not the school, not the church. And as long as we deny parents that primary responsibility of education, we shall continue struggling. Because God puts the education DNA in a parent.
Amen.
Boarding school was never God's idea. Get your children, throw them away for a whole term. Holidays, they have, we used to call it tamex. They have tamex. You see them at the end of the year for 1 month, in which 2 or 3 of the weeks you send them to their jaja in the village. That was not meant to be God's pattern. And that is why we are failing to educate. The fall is where the disorganization starts. Okay? The serpent comes and introduces, hitherto, all education, the source is God. But now the serpent introduces a new source of knowledge, which is worldly wisdom. But really, did he say don't? He doesn't want you to become wise like him. And use a different source of. And every knowledge that is not biblically based, there's no neutral knowledge. Okay? It's not there. It's either biblical sound or from the enemy. Okay? Be it the physics we teach, we'll either teach it from God or from the enemy. And what's the result of this worldly knowledge? Death, loss, pain, loss of purpose. Man now moves purposeless. The gun that is supposed to use as a tool of preservation instead uses it to destroy. Someone talked of war. When the child gets some knowledge, he uses it instead to manipulate the business principles that he learns. He uses them to manipulate instead of creating a commonwealth. But thank God for his providence. Thank God for his providence. He provides guidance to us again. We see him instructing Moses and on how to live. God gives the law to Moses, and Moses passes it on to the priests and the people pass it on to their children. Okay? God to Moses and the priests to the adults. The adults were the ones to teach them the children. The priests were not teaching Sunday school. It was the parents. Okay? He thinks, this child does something. I'll report you to your Sunday school teacher. Okay. I'll take you to the headmaster.
And now we will try to escape to police.
Yes, yeah, that is true. I'll take you to Kangurumisa. I'll take you to police. We have a compassion-supported project at church. And many times you'll hear the mothers will come, your child has. You're like, hey. They walked with him. He walked with them. He held them by the hands. Okay? His death, his resurrection, he again gives us the mandate. Go and make disciples of all nations. A mandate to nations to do what? To make disciples of all nations. To disciple means to bring them to the obedience, back to the obedience of God. So the role of every believer is to work towards that. As a teacher, my primary role is to disciple these children in my hands so that they obey all that God has commanded them. If through my teaching I do not draw them closer to God, I have failed. And I like what Harry shared with us. When my child fails, it's not them that have failed. It's me who has failed. There was a picture I accidentally deleted of a dog reading. There was a contest between two people, and one told the other, I can teach a dog to read. Of course, the friend said, Wapi, they betted. And the fellow came and taught the dog to read. Told the dog, now when you get a book, do this and this and this. And the fellow told his friend, I'm done, give me my money. He said, no, you haven't taught it. He said, I've taught it. Then he gave the dog the book. Did the dog read? Of course not. But then the fellow says, no, I did say I am going to make a dog to read. I said I am going to teach it. And me, I have done my part, I have taught. Yet that's how we behave. Today the topic is this. Have you understood? Some will say yes, some will say no. Okay, next lesson. Next lesson we move to the next topic. End of term exams, average class mark is 40%. Next term, we begin from where we stopped the previous term. And we write on the comment, needs to improve, needs to work harder as we progress. He's still struggling with 25 minus 32. We are teaching them simultaneous equations. And at the end, I wonder why these people are not learning. The Bible says, woe unto us. Education must have the three concepts of knowledge, understanding, and wisdom. Since I'm talking to educationists, I'll not belabor that a lot, but you talk of the cognitive. Which other? promoter, effective, very complicated, but the Bible calls them that. Just translate it to that. Knowledge, understanding, wisdom. Knowledge to get the facts, understanding to apply them, and wisdom to discern as you apply them. If we focus on any just one of them, we shall not get it. We must speak the facts, but speak to their hearts as well. I must be able to show them that this mathematics is for God. That Jesus used this mathematics to divide the impossible and feed thousands with five loaves. You know? What the Bible tells us, by wisdom the Lord laid the earth's foundations. By understanding, He set the heavens in place. By His knowledge, the deeps were divided. Okay? Even in creation, He had to apply them. He had to apply knowledge to know that this should go here, this should go here. He had to apply wisdom by providing for rest. Now, do you see how, because of His wisdom, He provides for rest. Because of our throwing away God, we will provide Monday to Sunday lessons. At the end of the day, by the time our students are going for exams, they are too tired to think. By the time they finish their examinations, they are too angry with the system to look at a book again. As a result, they are not able to apply. Okay? Proverbs 24:3-4. By wisdom a house is built. Okay? Through understanding it is established. Through knowledge the rooms are filled with rare and beautiful treasures. Proverbs 2:6 tells us where to get it. Okay? For the Lord gives wisdom. From His mouth come knowledge and understanding. Someone talked of holistic. That is what holistic education is about. If you try to give the psychomotor without God, you will not get it. Those three must be in place. That's the fourth sustainable development goal. To ensure inclusive and equitable quality education and promote life learning opportunities for all. We can ask ourselves, are we doing that? Are we promoting life learning opportunities, lifelong learning opportunities? Okay. For all. For the child in Kampala, and the child in Arua, and the child in Lembi, and the child in my village who has not seen electricity. Yes, I visited the class and I was like, okay. 21st century, no electricity, no shoes, no books, and they are still learning by scribbling on the floor. I'm not talking of 10 years ago. I am talking of, I visited them 2021. Okay. Equitable quality education. Okay. the African Union has expressed that what it has called Agenda 2063, Continental Education Strategy for Africa, to educate a new African citizen who will be an effective change agent, enabling Africa to leapfrog in education as it did in communication. And Africa can do it. Okay? No one would have guessed that we would have the latest Samsungs in the year they are manufactured, just like the developed world. Okay. But we are facing a severe learning crisis. Okay? A severe learning crisis. And this has kept us back. Okay? Because learning is not happening. 60% of the world's children out of school are in sub-Saharan Africa. Okay? You'd call our education something close to that. We are trying to fill with many holes. By mistake, some water may accidentally water a few flowers here and there to grow in a scattered manner. And what is the problem? Our education is still built on the industrial age model. First industry. We have had the first industrial revolution, second industrial revolution, third industrial. We are now on the fourth. Our education is stuck on the first, where we assembling, where you're teaching to assemble. Okay? As a result of that, you're teaching uniformity. Everyone should learn the same way. You get a cat and a fish and a monkey and you tell them, each of you must be an effective tree climber. When the child is talkative, you will fail, you're talkative in class. Some of us, I believe most of us know this comedian, Pablo. He usually jokes that in class, he was beaten for talking too much, but he's now earning out of talking too much. Sometimes I teach in classroom, and there was this student, everyone was complaining about us being naughty, being cheeky. But then I realized when I would mark her work, she always had the best answers. But everyone, and then she was cheeky. Then I realized that actually, I think her cheekiness is trying to bring out that intelligence that she had no way of expressing. So I began channeling that cheekiness positively. And I decided, no, I'm not going to even one day rebuke her. Instead, she would make a joke and I would follow up the joke and we continue the joke. And I remember eventually when they sat their senior 4, she was top of their literature class. Yeah. But if she had been, others were beating her down. If we had all continued in beating her down, she would never have been anywhere close to the top. But we want uniformity. I remember in economics, there was a phrase, keywords. If a definition didn't have certain keywords, even if you were explaining correct concepts, you were marked wrong. I hope it is not still like that. Though the one that disturbed me was English. English language. I attended a workshop, an English jazz workshop that was facilitated by someone they call the chief examiner. You people understand these things better than me. Chief examiner, who is the all-knowing about the correct answers and the wrong answers. And he took us through how they had marked that particular year, previous year. One of the questions for paper 1 had been writing a formal letter. He took us through how they had marked that number, and I cried. Let me see if my markers have gone missing. Oh, they're here. There's one here. He told us if the student wrote their address like this, give 1 mark there. If you leave a space and write the date, 1 mark there. If you leave a line and you write this side the address's address, 1 mark. If you write dear sir, stroke madam, 1 mark. Underline the title, 1 mark. Then if you hear he said if you give reason, the body was given 2 marks. If you wrote yours faithfully, signed and wrote your name, 1 mark. And the marks for actual content were about 2 or 3. Now, for crying aloud, today, who writes letters like this today? No one. Who still signs off yours faithfully in today's working world? But they are being marked wrong because they did conclude yours faithfully. Who still says dear sir or madam? Who still underlines? As you type that letter, do you underline? I looked through the entrepreneurship work, and what are they being taught? Balance sheets, profit and loss account. Do you have any accountants here? Do you still draw balance sheets? You know, with the debit side, this side, where you start long-term creditors, short-term creditors. I looked at the accounts in front of me and the accounts that were being taught, and there was no connection at all. And we're asking, what is the problem? Aren't we the problem? So why do you teach that? Even those countries have left that.
Yeah, but they want us to be in darkness.
No, it's us who want to be in darkness. No, it's us who want to be in darkness. Road planning. I still remember we had crammed. There's a song we sang. Aheri Beri Kana. Oh, you know what we're doing? Aheri Helium. At affinity series. Because we couldn't learn them, we made songs for them. Rote learning. Okay, only stopping at the numeracy and literacy. Okay, we are tending to just stop there, which should be level 1. Exam writing as the main assessment for academic excellence. 2 hours, if you're lucky 2.5, to decide what you've learned in the last 15 years, whether you have learned or not. If by some chance the question they brought is the one on the page you last read, you get 20 out of 20. They will strictly examine continuous assessments, assignments, class discussions, no tests. And even the final assessment is a report combining everything you've learned. Wow. Competition for prestigious schools, prestigious universities. I also want to go to Makerere. I have a young girl that served me in church. She got the course she wanted to do at Amoni University. But because she was persuaded that the university to be is Makerere, she settled for something very different from anything in her line of interest. Very different. That is a human development index. Another terrible one. Uganda 0.516. What that means is that a Ugandan will only be developed 51% of their capacity. Only 51%. We are even below the Saharan African average. You can see Norway at 95.3%. Competitiveness, 48.9% competitive. Why? Because of the way we're educating. You want to try out how competitive we are or we are not? Try registering a company today. And say, I'm going to follow the procedure, I'm not going to talk to anyone. You will not succeed. Okay, we all know these facts. We have the youngest population in the world, mean average of 15. 68.5% are below 25. Highest dependence ratio in the world. Highest youth unemployment in the world. Third highest population growth in the world. That is our fertility. We are projected to be 65 million in 2030. Who is responsible? I'll say it's you and me. We are responsible. Okay, those are the projections. 87% of primary going age children are in school. Excellent. It's only 10% who have never stepped in school. Now, look at that gap between primary and secondary. Okay? 87% primary, 15.8% secondary. Where do we lose them? And so far research has shown that the biggest reason for school dropout is boredom in school. Boredom in school. We have failed to generate enough interest. How? Because they don't understand what Rylands and Canadian prairies has to do with their life in Arua. That one was telling me how they went to Canada and very excited, asked about the prairies, and their host was like, "What's that?" Okay, those are the rates for education attainment. Vision 2040, a transformed Ugandan society from a predominantly peasant and low-income country to a competitive upper-income country. Okay? Our per capita income, 9,500. What's the current per capita income? Pardon? What?
About $300
You're almost there, somewhere around that. I'll not go deep, but I'll just highlight some of the suggestions. I call them suggestions, although they are not supposed to be suggestions in Vision 2040. It's supposed to be the direction, but it looks like they're just suggestions. But I mean, universal education should be a human right. Secondary education reduced to 4. Emphasize character formation and talent identification. Hallelujah. But are we moving towards that direction? All government-supported tertiary education should be developed skills development according to talents and aptitudes identified. Do we have any talent identification structures? When the child spends so much time on football, what do they say? He's wasting time in the field instead of reading. And we are wondering what the problem is when it's so clear in our faces. Okay, national service, opportunity to excel in whatever skills. Emphasize practical skills, moral values. Internship for 1 year. If we did this, it would be very far. You know, if we implemented just what we have put on paper, we would be very, very far. Revised curriculum, talent identification as an ongoing process. We thank God for the revised lower secondary curriculum. At least it comes close. We pray that it won't die. We pray that you will implement it. Emphasis on keeping girls. Those are some of the direction. Allow them call them suggestions, though they are not supposed to be suggestions. Just they're supposed to be implemented. These are questions for us to think about. What skills do we really need? When we talk of vocational, what vocational skills do we really need? Today, when you tell a person go vocational, what do they think about? Tailoring, hairdressing. The other day, I watched the YMCA graduation and all the campuses, and they had about 300 people graduating in hairdressing. So I asked myself, if we have 20 vocational institutions, each releasing 300 hairdressers, how many are those per year? 300 times 20? 6,000 new hairdressers every year. And we're celebrating, we are going vocational, hallelujah. So what skills do we really need? University, what kind of university education do we need? I teach at university. And many times when I look through objectives and what's supposed to be taught, and I'm like, so I've created my own pathway. The advantage is you're the lecturer, you're the examiner. So I've created my own pathway to helping them get actual skills. Do we need sciences or arts? And I asked another question, what type of science do we need? If I do the physics, chemistry, biology that we are learning today, and do Bachelor of Science at university, is that the kind of scientists that we need to grow our country? The actual scientists I know dropped out of school. There is one that has been famous a lot in the country, foodie boats. I think they came at Castle. Foodie boats. Has anyone heard about foodie boats? Most of us haven't. But this is now an entity that is training children in robotics and applying science, the science they learn in class. They are helping them apply it right from P1. Okay? It's an after-school program, the number of schools, especially international schools. Now, this is the story of foodie boats. The founder is called Benny Solomon King. He was my classmate right from S1. Okay? And I remember by S1, he was out of local materials. He was making remote controls. He had done a wiring to protect his cubicle. You couldn't just walk into his cubicle. Okay? He had created an alarm system. He had made it. Okay. Now, when he got to university first, I decided to do BSc. After one semester, he dropped out. He just couldn't take it anymore. What he was studying was taking him backwards instead of forward. So if the people that are able to apply are the ones who have dropped off the system, then there's a problem with the system. A big problem. Okay? Unemployment, great. Gaps in the work field, many. How do we match the two? Here, the industry is lacking workers. The graduates have no jobs because they don't have the skills. I remember when I was starting the school, I took on someone who had finished accounting. And then, actually, I ended up being the one to teach her what to do. So at the end of, after some time, she told me, but Ernest, did you study accounting? I said, no. How come you're the one who knows the things and me who studied, I don't know them? Okay. And that's where we are. How do we improve work ethics? ICT. Everyone has said ICT is an accelerator to transformation. How do we incorporate it? COVID taught us that life cannot continue normally. Unfortunately, as we forget it, we're slowly going back to the normal ways. We need to adapt. What do we need to do different? Okay? After giving us all this to think about, what do we need to do different? That is the question at the end of the day. Okay. One of the things I suggest is what we call the interconnected multidimensional triangular framework of education. We all we've stated it time and time again that we have three important pillars in education: the parent, the school, the church. But the gap is that each of these has tried to play its role independently. Okay? When you look at a chair, each of the four legs is independent of the other. Okay? But I am proposing that we need them to be interconnected. Okay? We need them to be interconnected if we're to grow. The home of parents, like I said, is the primary teacher. Okay? So we need to go back to our homes as parents and model to our children. They learn through seeing. Okay? Our actions speak so loud that they can't hear what we are speaking. We need to model, we need to instruct, we need to guide. Proverbs 22:6. Train up. Training does not mean just showing, but correcting, guiding. Okay? The church at all its levels must also rise up to the task. We don't need the pastors to come and be the head teachers. No. We need the pastors in the church to equip the head teachers who come to their church to be effective head teachers. As amazed, one of the professors that taught me, as amazed, at their church, when they have accountability sessions. Okay? They have accountability sessions at their church. And that day, everyone comes and gives accountability. The pastor gives accountability on how he has run the church. The CEOs in the church come and give accountability on how they have run their institutions. The teachers in the school come and give accountability on how their students have performed. But what do we preach in our churches? I'm looking for the Basuma. We know what we preach. When did you last hear a sermon on how to be an effective teacher? How to be an effective businessman? Okay? The school, we are motive for Christian schools or Christian education. And we are saying that Christian education must be Christian. If you're running a church-founded school, there's no reason why 99% of your teachers are Christian. It should be 100% Christian. Because a teacher cannot give out what they don't have. Out of the abundance of the hearts, a man speaks. The curriculum must be 100% Christian. Teach that geography from a biblical perspective. Teach that CRE from a biblical perspective. Teach them that evolution is a scheme from the devil. I mean, if I was asked a question like, is my pointer also back? Yes. If I was asked a question like about evolution and I answer that, whereas I disagree, some people believe that man came from an ape. You can't mark me wrong. Okay? And there should be a serious focus on Christian instruction. I will speak a little more about that. The church must evangelize the parents and the home. Okay? Must disciple and must equip. So when I go to church, I should live when I am equipped to live on Monday. I should live when I am equipped to be a better parent. Okay? So these are topics you need to incorporate in your sermons. The pastors here. Being an effective parent. Being an effective engineer. Okay? Strategic planning from a biblical perspective. The parents should provide, not only provide, but also support. Okay? Support learning, support the school. I run a school and I have children whose parents I don't know yet they even finished and have graduated. Okay, and must veto. You, the parent, the school should not dictate to the parent what should or should not be taught. Yeah, the church must disciple the school as well. Every school, every Christian school should be attached to a church. Amen. To disciple, I'll come back to it, and to cover. But when you put it, every school should have a chaplain who is trained, who is equipped, who is ordained, who is sent by the church covering them. This should not be just an ordinary reverend or ordinary pastor, but specifically trained and equipped in that role. Okay. So at the end of the day, the government should just be keep providing an enabling environment, oversight. And if we follow that, our education will be transformational. I'll just share a few more ideas and I'll be done. Okay? We should teach skills that are appropriate for tomorrow. Okay? Yes, basic skills and numeracy where we have stopped at the stage, yet it's stage number 1. Soft skills, communication, collaboration, leadership, time management. He says the other day, I had to go to a school. It was raining, so I walked in the rain. I reached, and guess what? There was no child around. So I went to check in the staff room, no teacher around. Checked in the headmaster's office, no headmaster around. I knew the headmaster's home, so I walked to the home and found all the windows still locked and still asleep. Technical skills, computer programming, entrepreneurship skills, okay, so that we can foster innovation, creativity, industriousness. We have to check what we are teaching. We cannot continue business as usual. No. We need to link up education, and I'm not going to go a lot into policy issues, no, because I want to speak to things that are down at our level. What stops me from linking what I am teaching in class to the Vision 2040? Human resource planning and career guidance. Am I able to identify my learners' talents from an early age and guide them accordingly? Am I able just by observing them tell, think this one is a mathematician? I currently have 2 children and I can clearly already tell who the scientist is among them and who the artist is among them. And I have decided I am not going to put pressure on them to focus on their areas of weakness. No. If a child is not meant for physics, why make them spend more hours? You need to spend more time in physics to improve. No, you don't. Instead, you need to spend more time in the literature that they're doing well so that it can become a super A. You're good at literature and weak at chemistry, so you spend more time in chemistry and end up getting a C in the literature, you would have got an A. And because you struggled hard in chemistry, you will get an O instead of an F. Practical, beneficial science. As a science teacher, can you focus on helping your learners be practical? The church must play its role. It cannot continue to sleep. Let us embrace alternatives. Promote parent-led education. We can no longer have teacher-led education if we want to progress. Embrace Christian education principles. Let us have meaningful emphasis on development-oriented vocationalization. The actual skills that we need. Let's implement the Ministry of Education has wonderful strategies, wonderful principles. Let us focus on implementing them. Let us focus on the teacher requirements, okay? We're not even talking of coming up with new ones. We're talking of focusing on the ones that we already have. E-learning. Distance education. We now have the opportunity to learn from the very best. Okay? Our children in whichever corner of Uganda they are, through e-learning can now learn from the very best. Let us provide those opportunities and we shall see actual progress. Okay? These are some of the books that I have written. I will not spend much time into it. Maybe that Portrait of a Great Teacher, A Different Spirit, which is work related. Biblical perspectives on education, where I've shared a few of the ideas there. So I want to end by challenging us, by encouraging us. Shall we play our part? Shall we stop blaming government? Yes, government has its role, and maybe it has not played its role, but have I played my parts? Have I focused on what I can influence? Have I focused on giving that learner at whichever level I am meaningful education in my sphere of influence? If I am an inspector, have I inspected? I remember I confronted inspectors in our area who wanted to do the COVID inspection from their office. I told them, no, you can't do that. They told us, we are tired, you bring the school, visitor's book to the office, to our office, and we shall stamp it and give you your certificate. They said, no, if a child dies from a school, you'll blame us. Come and inspect. Okay? These are just a few biblical perspective on education. This is how it looks. I think it's the only one I carried. I have a few copies of it at 10,000. These others you'd have to get in touch to get them. This is Rebuilding Walls, about leadership. Portrait of a Great Teacher, about a teacher. Studies. Thank you very much for your time. And God bless.
We are getting the dose and the injections going slowly and slowly. This is, I think, a proper EV dose. And this is making us reflect back. I imagine when he's talking here, as we sit in this room, we are putting our minds back to where we're working. Bringing your class in front of you, bringing your school in front of you. If you're a head teacher, you're putting your school on the table, trying to analyze.
Have founded very many schools. You have just talked about chaplains in these schools, and you have said this should be trained, ordained persons, and no more. here is our situation. Because we don't have them, they are not enough, the institutions are many. We have ventured into doing a kind of training called lay chaplains training. And then we try to give basic lay chaplains guidelines. Are we near anywhere?
The question is very interesting. Are we near anywhere? All right. Thank you. I'm excited about the teaching I've had this day, particularly about the Christian Center schools. Actually, this teaching gives an insight that we should be able to set Christian Bible-based schools. We should not only focus on government-aided schools. We should venture into private sector and venture into very Christian Bible-oriented schools. That's great. However, my question is, in the universities, when people are undertaking research or dissertation, you are asked to quote some research done by the Western world. And most cases, if you don't do that, your research is not approved. I think this is part of the problem we have in this country. You have professors who cannot even think outside the classroom in the higher institution of learning. We still have colonialism in the education sector, even at the highest level. So, can't the National Council of Higher Education maybe set up a team to review the curriculum that we undertake in the universities? Because if you don't quote a researcher, a Western oriented researcher, you say your thesis or research is not and void, they disapprove of it. And if our professors are doing the same. So I think something should be done. Thank you.
A nice presentation you have made. What you have presented is actually the idea. And I'm convinced that all the participants inside here is going to be, if you know what your calling is as a Christian, definitely you'll be part of the change. Many times we talk about our Christian schools, which are actually far away from what a Christian school is supposed to be. Now the presenter has given an idea. The challenge is up to us. What is that change we want to see in these schools? Are we being part of it? It does not start with somebody, it starts with me and you. If you want to be a part of the change in these schools, then what our presenter has put here definitely will happen. Without looking at another person, but look at you and what is happening on the ground. Thank you.
Thank you. Good afternoon. Patrick Achema is my name. I want to pick from what she has said. Thank you, Doctor, for the message that you have given to us. There's a lot that needs to be done in as far as education system in our country is concerned. One of the things that we are suffering from is being a poor father or a poor mother, whereby you produce your child and the child is taken care of by another mother or another father and teaches that child on how to develop or how to grow, how to live, because they have the resources and you, as the biological father, you don't. This is what Church of Uganda is suffering mostly. They started schools, but along the way they sold their birthrights to the government. And now the government is controlling the schools. I've been a school management committee chair. I'm a BOG chair, rather a BOG member in one of the secondary schools. We suffer a lot from Christianity versus secularism in the schools. And one of the challenges is the teachers. Being a government-aided school, they post anybody they feel has the qualification to teach without Christian principles in their lives. So it makes implementing Christianity in our schools very, very difficult. Thank you.
I'm wondering how much I can achieve by myself in the school where I teach. And I feel in my heart that this teaching, if it starts with teacher training and teacher training schools, a lot will be achieved because teachers themselves become implementers and really they will come back to schools to do much. Then alongside that one again is the Ministry of Education support. In terms of the books which do come, most of which are based on the far back industrial revolution books, the curriculum which we are still going with, policy matters. Remember, recently we had policies where prayers were given to schools without the name of Jesus. Songs were given and they were mandated to be done in our schools, even Christian schools. This clearly shows that sometimes the ministry policies interfere with Christian principles in our schools. Then parents support, because most Christian schools have categories of students, children from various religious backgrounds. And sometimes we face difficulties in trying Christian principles with such children in schools, and even the parents themselves come out complaining. Leave alone even other religions apart from Christians. Even Christians in vocation, Catholic and Protestant have the same problems running in schools. So I like this approach really, it's very important. But I fear how much can we implement this really in order to make a great change in our schools. I wish it be done in order that we can see the true teaching and learning which we need for the development and transformation of our country. Thank
you. We have asked so many questions as pertaining to the issues that we have at hand, where we are going down with our education system. One of the answers that we gave was to have transformational education system. Somebody gave an analogy of, kind of stating the difference between, our education system and elsewhere. Of course, raising questions like, who discovered the source of River Nile? Questions like, who discovered the stone age in Olduvai Gods? Yet somewhere else, people who are developing are having questions like, how can we improve or make Great Britain great again? How can we go to the moon? Or how can we improve our industrial production again? I think there's a challenge with curriculum that we have. How can we improve on our curriculum so that we have transformational education? Thank you.
My dear, what you're doing with the chaplains, I think it's a step in the right direction, because we have to start somewhere. It's not the full ideal, but it is in the right direction. Right? Challenge you, we do not stop at that. If indeed you have identified these as the lay chaplains, what is difficult with giving them full training? Okay, if they're interested in getting to the point of ordination so that they are ordained as chaplains, that they go through full training to the capacity that they are ordained. But lay chaplains that are trained, it's the right direction. And I've had the opportunity to go through some of the training resources, very good resources that I would encourage other churches as well to pick from. Universities and quoting Western researchers. I doubt that the university requires you to only quote Western researchers. Probably, at least the universities I have studied and where I have taught, some of which are in Uganda. But yes, definitely, you must locate yourself in a particular field of knowledge. And quoting a researcher does not mean agreeing with the researcher. You can quote and give your disagreement. And also, almost in any field, there are Christian researchers. Almost in every field, that all the fields I have checked, there are Christian researchers. And I know I have colleagues that have quoted, that are based on biblical philosophy and PhDs from Makerere, from Chambogo, from MOOCs. So it's possible. And if we are to be solid as Christians, we must show rigor in study, rigor in research. So that when I stand up and say that the Bible works, and someone challenges me intellectual on that, I can also give an intellectual response. So I believe it's okay to quote researchers that are not necessarily agree with your viewpoint, but then do that for purposes of showing where they go wrong, which we can do, and where we can as well get researchers and studies or generate new knowledge. Let that be your specialty, generating biblically founded knowledge in geography. Let that be your life purpose, and let us get to that level of having peer-reviewed articles, scholarly articles on biblical worldview. Posting of non-Christian teachers, of course, it's a challenge, but the church as a stakeholder needs to stand up and advocate and say no. For example, there are schools I know where you don't just post a non-Christian anyhow. I've looked at the Roman Catholic schools and they are so strict on that, they will not allow. The problem with us is that we are soft. Okay. No, sometimes we have to put down our foot and say no. As a church, we have said no. And they will listen to us because we have the numbers. So why can't we use our numbers? How much can I achieve by myself? Of course, there are things you can do as an individual, do them. Then as you do them, if you have read the book 7 Habits of Highly Effective People by Covey, he talks about something that I've practiced and seen it works. Circle of influence and circle of concern.
Has the marker again walked away? This marker keeps getting legs. Thank you. Okay. This. Okay. We are concerned about many things, right? And this is the circle. You're concerned that people are dying in Russia. You are concerned that the education policy is not favorable. But in here, you have what we call the circle of influence. Which one is that? The things that you have influence over. If you focus, the challenge many times we focus much of our energy on talking about circle of concern. But things that we cannot change. But if you focus on the little you can change, the more you change this, the more you will have influence over bigger space. The more you focus on what you can influence, the bigger what you can influence will be. Okay? So I encourage us to focus a lot on that circle of influence. Get disciples and disciple them into what you believe. One by one makes a bundle. That's what our fathers used to say. One by one makes a bundle. But if everyone at their level focused on that, eventually we shall have a multitude that is going in the right direction. Again, on these policies, as a church, we can stand up and say no to them. How can you tell us in a church school not to pray in Jesus' name? Try telling the Muslims that they will not pray 5 times a day. They can even
not go to pray the rosary in school.
They can even ban you. But for us, oh no. No, we need to stand our ground.
Amen.
I had something like that, close to that, happen at one of the places I've worked. And they brought this joint prayer. And the person they used to enjoy picking for opening prayer because they felt she prayed well. She told them, you want me to pray? Me, I can only pray in Jesus' name. Hallelujah. So choose someone else. Eventually, people complained and said, no, it was interesting, even the Muslims said, then I'll praise from their heart. With that, she's the one we want. Amen. Okay? So it's about us standing firm. The non-Christian students, at times it will take wisdom. Okay? You don't have to always say, I am implementing the Bible. You can implement it without saying you're implementing it. And I can assure you, but if it's a Christian school, church-founded school, put it in black and white on admission, put it on the admission letter, this is a church-founded school. Okay? Harry talked about the accelerated Christian education. This is a curriculum that is unapologetically 100% Christian. But you know that Muslims take their children there because they say, we have seen it produces a difference. They tell them, your children will have to learn. They say, it's okay. It's okay as long as you don't convert them. Well, of course, I can assure you after 12 years of SCE, you can't stay in unbelief. How can we improve curriculum? I think there are some positive steps in assessment, for example, in the lower secondary curriculum. But again, we can start at our level. Okay? I want to challenge the church to come up with also a parallel certificate of proficiency, which it can give. If the Church of Uganda said every Essex graduate who also exhibits these values and these skills shall get this special certificate signed by the Archbishop. You think employers wouldn't respect that certificate? You imagine you have a business and this person walks up to you and presents a certificate of affirmation from the bishop, saying, I hereby affirm by the whatever, canons, whatever, that this person standing before you has shown exceptional tendencies of integrity, hard work. Would you bypass such an employee? No. So as a church as well, we can develop a character training model, a skills development model that we can run in our schools as we implement. Focus on the sports persons in the school, in our schools. Why not put special attention in them and help I know that the lower secondary curriculum has introduced certification by the Directorate of Industrial Training. That is something that we can grab and maximize. I know many schools have not put a lot of emphasis on it, but it is something that we can maximize. Character violence among the teachers in learning and teaching process. Is it right for a teacher to teach learners based on their character? Whether right or wrong, that's what will happen. It is natural that as a person teaches, especially these teachers, since they spend extended time, it is natural that their character will have an effect on their learners. Okay, that one. Whose character should learners follow as far as moral behavior is concerned? Of course, we need, as Christians, we need to point them to Christ. Okay? But remember that there's that song, we no longer sing, but when I was growing up, I was singing a lot. They are watching you, marking all you do, hearing the things that you say. Let them see the Savior as He shines in you. Let His power control in everything. My brother, my sister, they are watching you. Students will watch you. Unfortunately, they will pick from your negative traits. Okay, so as we lead them to Christ, we should be able to say with Paul that follow me as I follow Christ. This one is for the organizers, it's not mine. How can these strategies be adopted in our teacher training colleges? We really need to adopt them, amen. Yes, I agree we need to adopt them. But again, we can start with the Christian training institutions. We have a number of Christian universities, for example. A learner who graduates from them, will they have been taught these principles? We can start from there. But as well, even if it's a non-Christian training institution, we can influence what we teach in class. At least at tertiary level, the lecturers have quite some leeway to teach what they want to teach, to focus on what they want to focus. One writer once wrote, the success of workshop is normally measured by a request of a second workshop. Can we as a group of educationists request another workshop? In the second workshop, is it possible to increase the number of teachers? Can we also invite participants from the curriculum development centers or facilitators from the center, the Christian ones? I think that one is also for the organizers. I think I've answered all the questions that were raised. Thank you.
It's been what our while? Has it been what our while?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. The first question says, is him sending us this PowerPoint presentation and how? We asked for everybody to register and to put down your email addresses. Did we all do that? If I didn't, can I have somebody? If you didn't, so that you can quickly go there and put down your email address, and we'll make some of this presentation available to you. The second one says, one writer once wrote, the success of workshop is normally measured by a request of a second workshop. I like that. Can we as a group of educationists request for another workshop? In the second workshop, is it possible to increase the number of teachers? Can we also invite participants from the Curriculum Development Center as well as facilitators from the center? Now you're speaking our hearts. This is supposed to be the teaser for you all. We know that when you go out there by word of mouth, you'll be able to tell as many other people to say, oh, there is something we attended and we enjoyed. We think everybody should know. This is a training center by God's grace, and we have come to speak to you. So we will work with all stakeholders to see what we can do as to have several other workshops following this. And we know when the time comes and we call upon those of you that have attended today, you'll be our proclaimer, publicity officers to allow as many people that we can. It will be good for us to not only have everybody come together, but sometimes even in our respective disciplines, so that we come together as stakeholders. Maybe you are into research, maybe you are into facilitating, maybe you are into administration, and then we can deal with each group and talk to ourselves to see how we can formulate things that in another 1 to 5 years, those that will come to West Nile can tell you that you have done your bit. I believe we can all do that together.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
There was a lot of stress, there was a lot of trauma, there was a lot of worry. Because you will hear strike this way, strike that way, strike this way, strike this way. Others were wondering, when will mine come and how will it come? How will I overcome eventually? Now there were all those worries. But when we ask ourselves on this transformational education, it will give us another mindset of how best we can get the approach of these children. And this basically tells a lot of information about the first line where you say education begins from home. Children right from COVID pandemic, you have wasted a lot of time, 2 years at home. You have not been able to have access to good education. Instead of coming back to concentrate in the class, you still have the gut and enough energy to disorganize yourself in the names of disorganizing the school, breaking these innocent walls, throwing the windows that have not talked, either provoked by teachers, I don't know, provided by community, I don't know. Some of their reasons are best known to them. People may have their own thing. So I think this is where we are going to pick out roots from and get it to work. Literally, when all these strikes were going, me personally was asking myself, why only West Nile? Because I have never heard of strike in Kampala schools. I didn't hear, maybe perhaps somebody had it. For me, I did not hear. Maybe we are not a Christian enough to allow God to reign in our schools. Those were questions that were pondering in my mind, but I didn't have the answers to them. So we can answer all these questions together as we get back here to apply all this knowledge that we have given our time for, to listen to, and attend to patiently. While we move towards the closer, I think I've not seen another question coming forward. We'll request participants, one person to move a vote of thanks to the organizers. As they move a vote of thanks, our host, Pastor Uche, it will be important that you make a brief comment, then we see how to close from here. So a volunteer among the participants will come to move a vote of thanks.
Yeah, thank you very much. I want to begin by really honoring the organizers of this particular workshop, which has been a workshop of the year.
I will just conclude that it has been the workshop of the year because all the years I've been growing, teaching to date. I've never come across this kind of useful workshop. And because of it, I just feel that, yes, today has been our time and we have learned a lot. I've been personally touched. As I mentioned, I think my school was also one of those that made me to grow stressed. I had a useless strike. I would just call it useless because to date there's no reason as to why the strike was there. Simply because on hearing that the neighbor has done, someone ought to also feel that they must also do. I was wondering, when your neighbor has bought meat and is cooking meat and you don't have money, whether you should also be cooking meat. You see, the sense of reasoning wasn't there. And I've been wondering what the problem was. I've got the solution today. I've got the answer today from today's workshop. As a matter of fact, we have our differences. The differences are really big. When you look at our schools here in West Nile, and when you go to other parts of this country, what has been given to us explains clearly what it is. While in other places, people go really all out for those studies and with a clear plan for the future, our people are lacking that. I was asking myself, why? I think our parents haven't got the knowledge enough to put our students, their children into the rightful direction. And because they lack that direction, exactly that is what is happening. In one of the schools in the neighborhood, the head teacher felt that the reading culture should be improved. And across, when you go to Kampala schools, you find that people wake up at night. By 5 a.m., students are up, teachers are in class, activities have started. And this teacher was going to introduce this. And the reward was throwing stones to the teacher. That is the kind of reward we get for the good things we are going to introduce. We have now been challenged. As teachers, what do we do? Can we emulate Nehemiah? A lot has been given about Nehemiah's activities. Praying to God to seek for solutions to the problems. From here, I think we should go on our knees. If we don't go on our knees, the generation from this region here is all gone. While others are crying to excel in academics, for our people they are crying to excel in discourse. They are crying to excel in dodging lessons. You wonder what priorities these people have. So we have a lot to do. Maybe you put West Nile in your prayers for us, as we shall also do the same. Otherwise, I would like to take this opportunity really to appreciate all our presenters for the good work they have done. And I want to also appreciate the organizers for thinking of us as educationists, because without education, the future of a nation is not there. And without us, the educationists, the future of the young ones is not there. So it is our role to take a responsibility from today and give guidance to these people so that they go to the rightful direction. With those few remarks, I thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
This is the beginning. And I want to say it again, this is the beginning. We will have more times like this with you. Teachers and people in the education sector are our heart. You are the center of what we are pursuing in the region. We will never take you for granted. There will be more of these times of interaction with you as we grow and as we go. Having said this, I would like to crave the indulgence of all head teachers that are here to please wait behind just for 5-10 minutes for the discussion. Can I see the hands of head teachers that are here or proprietors of schools? You're a proprietor, your head teacher, can I see? Please, I will just need you, as others are going for lunch, just spend me 5-10 minutes of your time privately. Is that okay? We'll just be right here and we'll have a small chat. Thank you. Now, our facilitator in the evening is actually the Director General of INT International. And Professor Vincent Anibogo has come all the way from Nigeria to Kampala with many schedules engaged in to spend time with us today.
An old hymn we used to hear when we were children, when my father was learning how to play guitar in Varasinia way back in 1970-71. That's what we're going to play for you. Sing to you. It says, "For God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son. Whosoever believeth in him should never perish but have an everlasting life." I'm the younger one. Don't suspect me of older age for my hair. The rest of me is intact. My hair is a bit more experienced, but that's okay. I'm happy with that.
My life, as I am, I know he came to save me. A sinner such as me, oh, a sinner such as me, he came to save from the grave. For God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that whosoever believeth in him shall never perish, but have an everlasting life. For God so loved, for God so loved the world.
come in and help to pull you through. Sometimes you just know that you need Jesus too. So come to him, oh come to him, he died for you. Hey, a sinner such as you, oh a sinner such as you, he came to save from all the grave. For God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that whosoever believeth in him should never perish, but have an everlasting life. For God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that whosoever believeth in him should never perish, but have an everlasting life. For God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that whosoever believeth in him, he will never perish, but everyone believes in him.
My name is Janda Joyce Droni. My school is Bright Horizon Nursery and Primary School, and I'm actually the proprietor of the school. I always prefer calling myself a proprietress, because if I say proprietor, which is also acceptable, people think I'm a man. I want to be known as a woman, and I'm proud to be a woman. I have actually learned so much that I cannot single out something very little. I learned a lot, and my wish was that I should have brought more people from my school to come with. But otherwise, I found the lectures, the interactions so inspiring. Because of that, I actually asked the facilitators if such a thing can be replicated again. I actually asked them that a certain writer, I didn't tell them the name of the writer I was quoting, but it was actually Hillary Clinton, a former president of Uganda, saying that the success of a workshop or a meeting is measured by request of a second workshop. And if you had, the questions being read out, I was actually the one who asked that question, because I feel I learned so much that I wish, more people from my school could also be invited. And then the other bit of it was that we were talking about the educational systems in our schools. Why are there failures? What is wrong? And what can we do about it? So I suggested, as part of my request and a question, that can we also invite people from the Curriculum Development Center in Kampala also to come as participants, or to also be as facilitators, to tell us how far they have been, or they have gone with changing the curriculum, so that we can teach our children something which is appropriate. Yes, something which is appropriate, instead of just relying on the old way of teaching, but to learn new ways also.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you, Madam, for your time.
Thank you very much for having me.
You're welcome.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Yeah.
Head teacher at King Senior Secondary School. I've been privileged. I've been invited for this very important workshop organized by the Institute of Education. And Really, I have appreciated the workshop, most especially from the two speakers. It was on education. We have learned a lot about the transformation of education. We have learned, of course, that as Nelson Mandela had said, if you want to kill a nation, you kill the education system. And with it, I realized really that our future was getting ruined. The young generation of late, especially from our region, the West Nile, they don't have the focus as they expected. The focus to excel in academics. The focus that could give them a future. We have not seen it. We have not seen it because what they do, their attitudes towards education, we see them as being negative. And from today's lesson that we have learned, it is us, the head teachers, it is us, the teachers, it is the parents. So all these stakeholders, if they join together, for sure we can still give this young generation the direction or the focus. Because many of them are acting blindly. We, from the enlightened source, we can give them direction. I think that's the main thing we have learned.
Yeah.
Yes.
So thank you, sir.
Okay, please.
All right.